Hello my MMA homies. If you had to guess, which of these two situations caused the offending fighter to be disqualified? Situation A. Or Situation B?
Dalloway landed to the body. We're right back.
Stick with me, and we'll find out the answer, but first, some context. For the first time in UFC history, a champion was crowned via disqualification. It seems like the perfect time to revisit some of the craziest MMA disqualifications. The unified rules of MMA were created in 2001. Their goal was to sync up state athletic commissions across the USA. But there are still plenty of inconsistencies. Which brings us to number 10 on my list of craziest DQs. Back in 2006, Mike Kyle was facing Brian Olsen at WEC. Kyle shrugged off Olsen's attempt to take the back, and immediately delivered the fatal kick. To make matters worse, Kyle then pounced on him with some super necessary GNP. Suffice to say, the California Athletic Commission wasn't impressed. They handed Kyle an indefinite suspension that was later revised to 18 months. Kyle was booked to fight just a month later in Idaho. But after a public outcry, Idaho Commission pulled his license, so he opted to lay low until his suspension was up. Early on in ONE FC, soccer kicks were allowed, but only after the ref signaled to the fighter it was okay. This led to a high-profile no contest during the promotion's fifth event. Arlovsky and Sylvia met for a fourth time, in what was, undoubtedly, a costly fight for a young promotion. Sylvia was seeing double, and the fight was ruled a no contest. This led to ONE allowing soccer kicks without the go-ahead. But, in 2016, following a fighter death related to cutting weight, ONE FC opted to completely ban the technique. Which brings us to number 9 on my list. The suplex. Kong's rich eye suplexed Catalan, and finished him with some ground and pound. At the time of the fight, the suplex was legal at ONE. This would soon change. One day after the event, promotion's CEO released the following statement, effectively disqualifying Kong's rich eye and awarding the victory to his opponent. It has been deemed that an illegal suplex was utilized. At ONE Championship, all variations of suplexes are illegal and any attempt or intent results in an automatic disqualification. Robin Catalan will now be awarded the victory, and his win bonus. This rule alteration resulted in several disqualifications over the years, but, when fan favorite Angela Lee used a suplex throw several years later, it seemed like a whole different story. Previous posts disappeared from social media, and it was now to be believed, ONE FC would be judging each suplex based on how the fighter lands. ONE FC official rulebook outlines all takedowns are legal but must not result in spiking or pile driver to the head or neck. Over at the UFC, there was an outcry to ban suplex throws following the knockout loss of Rose Namajunas. According to the unified rules of MMA, any throw with an arc to its motion is to be considered a legal throw. In addition, if a submission is being attempted by one fighter, his or her opponent is able to pick that fighter up and bring that opponent down in any fashion they desire because they are not in control of their opponent's body. Andrade's slam met both criteria. Many consider this to be a double standard, because no such questions were raised when Robbie Lawler blasted Askren into the mat. But this was a factor when the unified rules were being written in 2001. Around the time, Tito Ortiz had suplexed Evan Tanner into a KO. This led to legendary ref Big John McCarthy showing up to a rules meeting with judo and wrestling DVDs as to show the move was a part of both sports at the highest level, so it made no sense to outlaw in MMA. Number 8 on our list, Footstops. Back at UFC 46, Wes Sims was disqualified for foot stomps to Frank Mir's face. It's worth noting Sims was also grabbing the fence as he delivered these stomps. Sims celebrated as though he'd won, but the announcer clarified he was disqualified. Oddly, if you watch the rematch, you can hear Sims explain he knew he was disqualified as he was landing those stomps. Mir was triumphant in the rematch. No disqualifying shot is more debilitating than the hits to the back of the head. This was true in the case of Sakara, who unloaded a barrage of hammer fists to the back of Patrick Coates' skull. UFC President Dana White directed his anger at the referee Dan Miragliotta, saying, "I counted between 7 and 9 illegal punches to the back of the head. It was crazy. He was just standing there watching it. Didn't jump in, didn't do anything. And I'm pretty sure, I think it should have been no contest, not awarded to Coate. but a no contest. Sakara's manager was adamant. They appealed the DQ after the fight saying, "I feel like the right decision was overturned in favor of the hometown guy, and that's a shame." It really is. Ultimately the appeal was denied by the Quebec State Athletic Commission. Moving on. At number 6, the headbutt. Before there was John Jones, there was Marcelo Tigre Dantas. Tigre was an active fighter since the late 1990s. What makes him unique is that, like Jones, all of his career losses come by way of disqualification. Tigre's DQs came by way of excessive fouling, eye gouging and a headbutt from guard. Of course, some, particularly savage promotions, still allow headbutts. At number 5, hitting the opponent before and after the bell. At K1 Premium Dynamite in 2005, Heath Herring and Nakao came to the center of the ring and things got dicey.
He tried to kiss me on the lips like a homosexual. I'm not gay.
Following a kiss by Nakao, Herring floored the opponent before the match even started. Herring was initially declared disqualified. But the fight was ultimately declared a no contest when it was determined Nakao had also made a foul by kissing Herring. In 2018, Hector Lombard was disqualified following a knockout punch that came after the buzzer.
Dalloway landed to the body. We're right back.
Doctors allowed time to see if Dalloway would recover. He seemed dazed and ended up helped from the cage, then loaded onto a stretcher to leave the arena, and continually asked what happened. It was just a matter of whether it was going to be a no contest or a disqualification. It was ultimately declared a DQ. Here's an interesting take on what happened.
Because logically, you're going to think, well, no, you got to stop on the bell. No, you do not. That is absolutely not within the rules. That has not been in the rules since 1992. Barcelona Olympic Games. They're boxing. The way they do that at the boxing, because it's a tournament for the Olympic Games, you got to win 4 fights to get to the gold medal match. They set up 3 rings. They box all day long simultaneously. A horn, or a whistle in this case, goes off at an opposing ring, at which point he drops his hands and starts to head to his corner because he thinks it's his ring. Wide open, boom, guy KOs him. That is where the rule came. You protect yourself at all times. The whistle does not stop you, I stop you. That is an exact quote from every referee who's come in every locker room and talked to every fighter since.
Lombard had said he planned to appeal, but nothing came of it. At number 4, timidity. Timidity is one of the rarest fouls in MMA. Timidity relates to a fighter not wanting to engage, running away or pulling guard. Nick Serra was ultimately disqualified after refusing to follow referee's instruction to get up and resume the fight standing. But there was another case of timidity since. This time, the fighter even tried butt scooting to his opponent. After a warning and then a point deduction, ref disqualified Aguiar with 35 seconds left in the final round.
Maybe motivate him to engage in the contest. However, he did not. He kept up, he did not want to engage, kept flopping to the floor, and it just became apparent that he did not want to engage. At that point, I had to do what I had to do.
The most famous case of a 12-6 elbow DQ is John Jones. Dana White had since commented he felt that Jones should not have been disqualified and that he considered Jones undefeated.
Go undefeated in our sport. It's almost impossible.
John Jones so far.
Huh?
John Jones, but he lost because of the elbow.
He didn't lose.
Yeah, he got disqualified.
John Jones is undefeated.
Yeah.
Never lost his belt, never lost a fight, which is why he is one of the all-time greats.
What many don't realize is the questionable origin of this rule. One urban myth outlines that these elbows were banned because athletic commissions had seen martial artists breaking downward elbow demonstrations and felt they could be lethal. Another version of the events has the doctors, at the Unified Rules meeting, raising concerns about the amount of injury an elbow coming straight down while your head was against the floor would cause. Additionally, they were concerned that a taller fighter using these on a shorter fighter would cause spinal injuries. It's interesting to mention that no elbows were ever allowed at Pride. Today, PFL forbids the use of elbows because of likeliness they would cause cuts. Cuts, which would render the fighters ineligible to fight for longer time periods. Lucky for them, brain damage is like syphilis, not so easily seen by the naked eye. Moving on. At number 2 we have disrespecting a downed opponent. This is fairly self-explanatory. Once the ref has called a fight, perhaps it's best not to style on your opponent. And finally, at number 1. Not knowing the rules of the promotion where you fight.
Pressure! Punch! Just punch! Just punch! There we go.
Besides Yan and Jones, Anderson Silva also made this mistake before his time at the UFC. The fight ended in a DQ after Okami was unable to continue. The two would rematch at the UFC. In the build-up to UFC 134 Silva vs Okami, the UFC actually marketed Okami as the last man to beat the great Anderson Silva in all their promos. Silva was triumphant in the rematch. There you have it, folks. The 10 strangest disqualifications I've encountered. Any favorites? If you have a topic you'd like me to cover, leave a comment below. Until next time.